War and the Binding of Isaac share a lot of symbolism. For instance, war hurts and damages other humans, while the Binding of Isaac follows the story of a young child diving deeper into his mind and religion, therefore damaging himself mentally. Not only does war damage others, but also the people who participate in it, and it forces them to think about their morals and religion more deeply. That, and I'm pretty sure Napoleon said something about him loving the Binding of Isaac. So with that being said, I have a question that we will be analyzing today. What is the best Binding of Isaac item for war? The first thing we should look at is Isaac himself. Not only is he the best cosplayer alive, but he can also use his tears to fend off enemies. I don't think I have to tell you this, but normal humans aren't capable of such feats. The last time I cried in front of someone, they just made fun of me. In the game, Isaac can pick up items, which can increase his range, his damage, make his tears lasers, or multiply his tears. With this knowledge, I believe the normal human would be differently affected by the items from the Binding of Isaac. A good example is when Isaac has Mom's knife. Instead of the items he picks up affecting him, they instead affect the knife. Meaning we could see weapons be altered by soldiers picking up items. But we aren't talking about soldiers, we are talking about a single person with a single item. If you were going into war, what would be the best Binding of Isaac item you could have? When looking at the items in the game, there are two different categories: active items and passive items. The main thing we will be looking at is passive items, because active items require energy from clearing rooms, something that we cannot translate to real-life war. The first passive item we are looking at, of course, big surprise, the Brimstone. This item turns Isaac's tears into huge lasers, giving him infinite range, much more damage, and a lot of crowd control, something you need when you're going to war. This next one is more of a category rather than a single item, but items like the Sci-Fly, Botfly, Little Guppy, and the Cube of Meat all stop incoming fire, which is really useful when you don't want to die. Personally, I would prefer Sci-Fly, just because he has never let me down. We can assume that they block not only bullets, but possibly also grenades and incoming bombs, because they block explosive shots in the game. They have infinite health, meaning you go practically immortal to ranged fire. The only real issue with these items is they can't block a crazy amount of shots, but you should be fine as long as you're not standing in the middle of no man's land. Really, at the end of the day, almost any familiar item would help you survive. Another item we can look at is Guppy's Paw, which takes one heart container and converts it into 3 soul hearts, meaning a lot of extra life. The main difference between soul hearts and normal hearts is the fact that soul hearts cannot re-heal by taking health off the ground. But in the real world, you can't do this normally, so it wouldn't have a huge impact. This is a big what if, considering we don't know what a human's stats would be, or more specifically, how much health they would have. I believe, however, we can calculate this by looking at Isaac's health and age. See, we know normal humans become more durable over time, so by looking at Isaac's base health, which is 3 hearts, and his age, which is referenced through items and the creator himself stating he is 5 years old, we can infer the average health of a human. Following this logic, we can say the average baby has 1 heart of health when born and gains 0.4 for every year the youngling is alive. This means that the average US soldier, who is 28.5 years old, would have around 12 heart containers. If we are looking at soldiers who are getting drafted, this goes to all my future draftees out there, the first age group to go would be 20-year-olds, meaning they would have around 9 heart containers. Whether you are enlisted or somehow getting drafted, this item would certainly help on the battlefield. For example, someone who's 20 years old with 9 hearts can convert their health to be 27 soul hearts. For anyone who stopped following, this is an amazing item. Onto our next item, we are looking at Technology and Technology 2, which both shoot a laser that continuously damages enemies in its line of fire. The big difference between this item and Brimstone is that Brimstone requires a build-up to fire, while Technology fires alone with Isaac's shots. This could prove quite useful when we take into account most soldiers use automatic weapons, which means the laser would shoot along with the weapon's fire. While these other items have been great, I believe that there are still several items that put them to shame, these being items that grant homing bullets. These include Godhead, Sacred Heart, C-Section, Spoonbender, and Star of Bethlehem. Any of these items would grant homing bullets, but if we were looking for the best one, I would arguably say it's Sacred Heart. Not only does it grant much more damage, but it also gives you more health, which is always a plus. Moving on to our next item, we have the Joker card. This card will teleport you to either the Angel Room or the Devil Room. This is not only great for dodging war scenarios, but also for picking up items. Now normally in the Binding of Isaac, you would want the Angel Room. This allows you to gain one free item. We, however, want the most we can make out of this, and luckily, the Devil Room allows you to take multiple items, as long as you are willing to sell your soul, or more so, health. With this being said, there isn't a really good way to ensure a Devil Room unless you've denied religious teachings your whole life, or have committed any of the 7 deadly sins. If you don't know what those are, you should totally watch my other video about which fast food chains belong in each layer of hell. Now, back on topic, since we can't guarantee a Devil Room, the best items you can get in general for the Joker card are Sacred Heart, Brimstone, and Money Equals Power, because we all have much more money than Isaac does, meaning our games would be through the roof if it scaled the same. There are a lot more Angel and Devil Room items, but these were the main ones that are worth it, not something like Backstabber, which really is only good if you are Spy from TF2. Speaking of Spy, we should also discuss Camo Undies. The main reason this item is important is because it lets you go invisible until you do damage. There are some other perks to this item, but the main one is being able to dodge the war entirely, because just like Napoleon also said, why go to war when you can just not go to war? Now, onto our last item, the one that everyone has been waiting for. I would say Dead Cat is the best item for war. It's basically a respawn anchor, allowing you to just rise from the dead once you've been killed. It has its downside, which is you only have 9 lives, just like a cat, and it takes away a lot of your health, which is definitely a negative. However, I still think it's a great item, not only because it's cool, but it also allows you to adjust your strategy, plan ahead, or just leave the battlefield altogether. I think I would do the last option. With all of this being said, I think that almost any item in the Binding of Isaac would help on the front lines. These were just my top picks as an amateur player. I plan on making a lot more content, hopefully in better time frames, so please stay tuned. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time for another analysis.